Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk, everybody. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but I can't begin to express how lovely it is to be fishing once more. Hopefully you all enjoy the new type of footage rather than just point of view. We've done some wonderful work with the tripod, so I really hope that you all enjoy it. But today I decided that I wanted to talk about the connection between two disparate conversations I've had in the last couple of months with friends of the channel. The first conversation being with Conscious Caracol, and the other being with Dawn the Pleb. I don't think that they'll mind if we discuss the topics of these conversations, in part because of how relatable they are to the current situation and trend that we've all been observing. In my conversation with Conscious Caracol, we were sort of discussing the variety of horrors that exist in this world of screens and Skinner boxes that come with social media, our computers, and our phones. We were both expressing our objections that it came with working from home. I had done a video on it a few months back, but we were talking about how the environment of working from home not only destroys the barrier between the home and work life, how so many of us working and coming home from our jobs, that drive home or that commute home can be a way to detox or cut yourself off from the stress and the problems that may exist at your work site, or the petty drama of office politics, as well as a way to relax and calm down and put something in on your phone or your car's speakers and just simply try and put the day behind you. For me, I know on my drive home, I'm usually listening to an audiobook or an essay of sorts courtesy of the channel Skeptical Waves, and if you aren't subscribed to him already, I definitely recommend that you are. But one of the things that Mr. Caracol had pointed out to me that was just really upsetting, not because it actually upset me, but because it was an observation that was so perfectly worded about the horrors that I think that we're experiencing, was that every Zoom meeting that we seem to have, or some sort of video call, or Teams meeting, or whatever application that your office may use, you are only seeing a digital representation of someone. There's no longer physical in-person meetings, and for those of you who are fully physically back in your office, you should realize how important it is to hold on to those physical conversations and interactions. He had said that all of these things are merely a simulation, a digital representation of who a person actually is, and merely a distorted version of their own voice that we'll hear through a microphone or through our computers and their own natural speakers. And in doing so, all that we're seeing is this representation of what a person actually is. And it reinforces the idea that the only way that we can have connections in this new post-crises world, bringing about the end of all things normal, is just to hold on to being online over and over again, that you are so desperate for a connection, even if it's something as minor as seeing somebody that you used to hang out with at work, you're going to cling on to that because everyone's lives have become increasingly atomized, whether you're working from home, or you're maintaining some aspect of distancing, or you live in a country that has enforced restrictions on your ability to move and interact with others. And in fact, I told him that I could very much relate to what he was talking about. Before I took on the job that I'm currently at, I remember quite distinctly a Zoom meeting that was held between various people in the office. One of the people that was on this call was someone that was actually in the cubicle next to me. And in doing so, she had this cute little background on of a recent vacation that she had taken down in Florida. And when the call came to the end, she had paused and looked at her screen. And she looked incredibly sullen, somber, melancholy, morose. And all that I could think about was simply just asking her one question. What was wrong? She clearly looked distraught, depressed. And she had said, "No, I'm just looking at the picture I have in my background. And now that the call is over, I'm no longer there on vacation. I'm back in my office." This really dark realization that all of these things that we do to put ourselves out there, whether it's at work, on a Zoom call, or on social media, it's nothing more than a delightful facade, including it being very temporary most times, about the actual world that we live in or the world that we face. And in doing so, this only seems to show even greater problems with working from home, but also the idea about being online all of the time. Especially for those of you who are parents, whether the kids are at home and you're having to force yourself to work from home as well, I can only imagine what a difficult balance that might be. But something that I've been observing over the last few years, especially, is the so-called smartphones and technology, a word that now seems like ancient history, is now being seen as a way to abdicate further parental responsibility. You know, how many times have you gone to a supermarket, if you still can, or have seen kids being pushed around on a stroller or even a shopping cart to suddenly realize that they're not really interacting with the world around them, but instead are interacting with their parents' phones or a tablet or some other similar device to merely pacify them and keep them occupied. All that I think that this has done in the long term, and I think that the future will be rather kind, unfortunately, to what I'm saying here, is that this is going to have disastrous consequences, not only in child development, but also the way that these children are brought up to engage socially. I mean, we're already seeing it now when it comes to child care centers as well as in education, about how even masked parents and masked teachers and masked child care workers have a difficult time connecting to the children that they're supposed to take care of because they no longer have the ability to observe one's face or mimic. And so, when we take a look at our digital forms of entertainment, our social media, most of the time these people aren't masked, if any at all. And in doing so, they're going to look towards those individuals and try and mirror them, or try to find some sort of affectation for them. And in doing so, what we will see is this increase of the parasocial relationship because kids are online more than ever these days. The fact that there are elementary and middle schoolers, whether they're latchkey kids or not, with smartphones and technology and the ability to connect with fellow people their age is astounding. And in doing so, probably only makes the issue of streaming, the issue of niche micro-internet e-celebrities and things like that, all the more paramount to address as an issue when it comes to childhood development. But on top of this, the lack of real-life interaction with people, I think, is definitely going to be telling in the next coming years when the next generation finally becomes fully online. We're kind of finally seeing the Zoomers end up online, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's the creation of YouTube videos, or of course they have their own platform, TikTok. But in doing so, we're seeing the most bizarre forms of social development, interactions, and all things like that in how they do these videos. The most noticeable thing that we see, whether you're following the libs of TikTok or you have an account yourself, is this overdone facial expressions, the constant hand gestures and movements, the wide eyes and the blown up cheeks and showing the face and the baring the teeth when doing a video or something for TikTok to illustrate a point, whether it's politically, socially, whatever it may be. And in doing so, it is something that seems completely alien to me. Now, keep in mind, I grew up when Vine was a popular thing, but I would never used it, and I don't ever seem to recall in watching clips of that app being around where people were acting in such over-exaggerated performative ways. And in doing so, I fear that that may be one of just many disastrous consequences that come from this work-from-home, overly online, atomized lifestyle. That because people no longer have the need or the ability to read social cues and understand them, that we're left with this rather inhuman, strange-looking horror of just this marionette of a person moving their arms around, their widened eyes and face as they talk in this strange accent explicitly made for an internet video. But this conversation, of course, is an excellent transition point to the conversation I've been recently having with Don the Pleb, a great friend of the channel and someone that you should subscribe to. Don and I's conversation was talking about how Gen Z is becoming more online and more politically engaged than ever over the last couple of years. And just like people my age and people Don's age or even older, they're going through the same sort of trial and error of observing things in politics that may seem new to them, but at the same time, for anyone who's older than them, knows what's worked and what hasn't, and are seeing them in real time repeat the same very facets of history that many of us who have been online consuming or creating content knows is something that they've seen already years past. I kind of mentioned this not too long ago on Twitter, but I had made the remark that we're sort of seeing a repeat of history, specifically with the idea of making fun of people on TikTok or talking about the things that get said on Twitter, especially by young people. And I couldn't help but think to myself, didn't we make fun of the same people on Tumblr, 8, 6, 7 years ago? And watch how their newly formed language, their newly formed epistemology on identity, on gender, on virtually everything political nowadays, is now the common phrases, the common speak, the official policy of HR rooms everywhere, to a point now where these ideas are openly being debated and enforced in governments around the world. I feel as if we are retreading the very same path. I know that some would say that time is a flat circle, and indeed it may be, but at the same time, I can't help but think all that this leads is the simple fact that no one is guiding them in the direction that may lead us towards a more positive future, or at least have the ability to survive this oncoming hellscape that lies ahead of us. One of the things that I think was most applicable about both of these conversations was the conversation about the abdication of parental responsibility. So where did these people go to? They discuss a variety of things, whether it's the idea of simping, whether it's the idea of giving super chats and money away to their favorite streamers for just the hope and that glimpse of attention that they might get, usually from someone older than them, in hopes to replace that void that is sort of the aspect of parental love, mentorship, and guidance. And because we're working from home now more, and because we're more online than we ever have been in recent memory, I feel like this is something that needs to be done with those of us who are older than the 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and some who are even below the age of 18, engaging politically online. And not just politically, those searching for some kind of meaning, some kind of epistemology. As Turnip's wonderful video pointed out 2 weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, I can't remember now, where he was talking about how these lost kids are simply burning through virtually every epistemology, religion, political identity in order to find some sort of bearing in this strange, atomized world of modernity. And most of them, unfortunately, burn out and become nothing more than a black-pilled, soulless husk to wander the earth, their eyes and neck craned down to look at their smartphones and social media that may come with it, just for a glimpse of dopamine that they might get from actual real-world interactions. And in doing so, I think that a lot of this coincides with the conversation that Don and I had with what I said with Conscious Caracol. That all of this, with the single-parent abdication of responsibility, the rise of single-parent households, the fact that the internet is virtually everywhere, and no one seems to parent their children like they used to, that all of this leads to is people looking for meaning online, and nothing in terms of a real-world community. One of the things that I really strikes me as scary about all of this was that I pointed out to Don that there's that YouTube channel, How to Dad, which I know offers some DIY advice and offers a variety of things in regards to helping people navigate through everyday life, what many millennials and Gen Z people would call adulting. And that YouTube channel, even though he does it in a humorous way and engages and does it probably with the goodness of his heart, as the story goes from him not having his father around when he was young, is the simple fact that he has over 1 million subscribers. Over 1 million people. A majority of them I would imagine to be young people, looking for someone to fill the hole of parental responsibility that is no longer there. And the fact that they are doing it online only compounds the problem for the need of real-life communities, real-life engagement, real-life interaction with other people that can help you get through a difficult time. And in doing so, Don finished off the conversation commenting how someone had told him that both of his parents were there, but they felt more like friends to him than they were actually parents, and that people are looking to gentlemen like Don, to people like Academic Agent, to have some sort of parental aspect in their lives, offering information, offering a sense of morality, offering a sense to engage in a real world that no longer exists and hasn't been around for quite some time. And I can't help but think to myself that we have to do more, just to even cover the bare basics for a generation that probably doesn't know how to change a tire, take a look over when it comes to negotiating at a car dealership, and to be the better examples that we need to be, both in our online engagement and our online spaces, but also to do more in the real world. I recently wrote on Substack about the importance of the idea of touching grass and actually doing the work necessary to engage and build some sense of identity and meaning offside from your online persona. And I can't help but think that we are not doing enough, myself included, on how to connect with others, how to help others try and find a sense of meaning in this world. For many of them, I feel like church would be an excellent go-to way to do that. But even now, in the wake of lockdown restrictions and what have you across the globe, even the most simple things like, hey, let me teach you how to play a game like 40K seems all but impossible. Things have to be done online. And so I guess to conclude this real talk, ladies and gentlemen, is that mentorship is absent. And I think that if there is something that many in the online spaces can do, is do their best to organize and set a better example, but also lead them in the direction for more real-life engagement, more real-life purpose, and try and help them navigate this hellscape that is modernity. If there is anything that we can do, it would be trying to teach useful skills, working with all of our backgrounds on how to negotiate with things, how to talk about certain issues at work, how to properly write a resume, for goodness sakes. All of these things will be needed. Because if not, the unknown horrors that we have created as a society lie awake ahead of us, just waiting to come up from its dormant state. You know, people can be driven mad by eldritch horrors they don't understand, but I certainly believe that many of us will be driven mad by the unknown horrors that are man-made that lie ahead of us. But with all that being said, I think I'll conclude there. Take care, ladies and gents. Be prudent.